Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a better way to work.
Hello and welcome to Engage for Success Radio and show number 651 in our weekly series. Engage for Success is a not-for-profit movement and the UK's leading voice on the topic of employee engagement. We are out there raising awareness and running events through our area networks right around the country. And our topic and sector-specific thought and action groups are developing research, publishing case studies, and highlighting all the best practice that's going on out there. Now, to find out more, please visit engageforsuccess.org. And while you're there, why not sign up for our weekly newsletter, which will ensure you'll never miss out on any of our excellent free resources, events, and updates. And I'm Andy Gorham, your host for today's show and the founder of BizJuicer, where I help organizations become stickier from the inside out by creating workplaces where people genuinely want to stay, contribute, and perform at their best. Now, today we're going to attempt to do something slightly different. If you've been around Engage for Success for any length of time, you should, I hope, be familiar with the 4 enablers of engagement: strategic narrative, engaging managers, employee voice, and organizational integrity. We have plenty of evidence behind them to back them up, but frameworks are all well and good. They are one thing. Trying to make them work in the messy reality of an organization is perhaps something else entirely. Now, what happens when there isn't a big budget to support this stuff? When the work your people do is emotionally demanding, when funding for what you do is uncertain, and when doing the right thing for your people sometimes means holding difficult boundaries rather than simply giving them what they want. Well, my guest today has spent several years finding out all about that. Fiona Stephens is Director of People and Culture at Migrant Help, a charity supporting people affected by displacement and exploitation. Fiona built Migrant Help's people strategy around the 4 enablers and has applied it in conditions that have properly tested whether this model stands up in practice. And what she's discovered is that perhaps the real power of the 4 enablers isn't found within each one individually at all. It's what happens when they begin to work together. So today, rather than presenting a polished case study of everything that went right, we're going to get something much more useful, I think. A field report, if you will, on where the 4 enablers held strong, where they bent, what maybe had to change, and what Fiona has learned about building genuine engagement when money simply isn't the answer. Fiona, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. My goodness, what an introduction.
What a guest.
Oh no. Can I do all this?
Well, this is the thing. I think this is what's going to be fascinating about today's conversation, because the white paper that started this whole thing, it does sound great in mind, right? And I fully subscribe to it. I've experienced it, but actually putting it into action, that's an entirely different thing, particularly within your context, Fiona. So I don't want to waste any time in the small amount of time we've got together. So if you don't mind, I'm going to dive straight in.
Sure.
Let's go back to the beginning, the decision that you made. Well, significant decision, I think, that you made to build the whole of your people strategy for Migrant Help around the Engage for Success model, around the 4 enablers. What was it about them or the framework that you thought, do you know what? I can build our entire people strategy around this. What was it?
What was it? Well, there were a number of things. One, I was familiar with it.
Yeah,
So I knew about it, which is always a good start. I steal with pride. Why reinvent something or try and come up with the answer when you've got tried and tested ways of doing it? I liked it because of the rigor and because of the fact that it had been tested and how it had been developed and who had been involved in its inception and then its development. So it came with a really pedigree. So when I was talking to the trust about a little bit of context. When I came into Migrant Help, we just won a big contract. The HR had been outsourced. Transactional stuff was provided by a consultancy, but we didn't have a strategy. There wasn't anything in place. And one of the things when I was brought in as the director was to build the function, but also build the people strategy. So the two kind of went hand in hand. So it was, okay, well, this works. I know about it. I'd done little bits of work with the two Joes. Hello to the two Joes.
Hello to the two Joes. God bless them. Yeah.
And it was fairly simple, do you know, as a concept and as a diagram. I mean, when we introduced it, we called it the donut. So it was the 4 quadrants put together, looked like a donut with a hole in the middle. So that was why I was attracted to it, because of its rigor, because of its pedigree, because of its simplicity. It was tried and tested, and it was easy to explain and easy to represent to people. But I mean, the minute you say, "Oh, people strategy," of course, most people go, "Oh God, oh no, really?" So something that was visually quite attractive and quite simple attracted me to it. So all of the above, really.
I think there is a joy in the simplicity of it. It's deceptively simplistic as well, because I think once you peel this stuff back, there's a whole amount of complex stuff that goes on underneath it. It's like, oh, really? So people are engaged. It's just down to 4 things now, is it?
Absolutely. If you just do this, it'll just be all fine. It'll be cool.
You can have it next week. It's all sorted, right? Yeah, I get it. I think what's really interesting, from what I understand of your experience, and I hope we kind of get briefly under the skin of it today, and I sort of did hint at it in the intro, is that where you saw or see the real value coming from the enablers, not necessarily the individual constituents or pieces of that donut, but what happens between them, what the relationships are between the different things. And when you talk about that concept, what exactly do you mean? What sort of things are you talking about?
Well, it's very much bigger than the sum of its parts. So I think if you focus on one bit of it, it's great and it's necessary. But what became apparent very early on was you had to integrate it, and you had to say, okay, let's look at strategic narrative, and we can do that, and we can have a strategy, we can talk about it. But how then does that then impact and feed across and reach into and have a feedback loop back from all the other 3 quadrants? And the way that we approached it, we stopped thinking about it as quadrants, and it just is. It's the whole of it. So when we do one piece, we don't even consciously think about now how it feeds back into the other stuff, because it's just all interwoven. And if we tweak one bit, then we say, okay, well, how does that impact over here? And what do we need to do over here? And do we need to check and adjust over here? And it just is than the 4 individual bits, which are important. And that's where it started. I mean, I did start with what we're doing there and what we're doing there and what we're doing here and down there. I know I'm on radio, so people can't see me I'm using my hands to
show. For the benefit of anybody listening, there's an awful lot of semaphore going on at the moment.
There's a lot of arm action going on. But it was one of the things, actually, because we've been reaccredited fairly recently for Investors in People. We got Investors in People Gold.
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. Getting it first was like, oh, this is tremendous. Keeping it, that is, well, yeah,
absolutely.
That's tricky. And I think that was one of the comments from our assessor, was that we had managed to pull it together in a way that people understand, I think, and people get, and and it all hangs together quite nicely. And then in the middle is the engagement bit, and obviously we measure that and we track that, and we do our quarterly pulse surveys, and we do other bits and pieces to track and measure that. But yeah, it's all of it needs to be in sync, and all of it needs to be mutually supporting, and make sense to people.
I think that's the interesting thing about the story that you're beginning to sort of tell and that is emerging, is that I think this is what is I said deceptively simple, but ultimately complex relationship between engagement as an output or as an outcome that we're looking for,
Outcome,
right? And
yeah.
all those things that brings. The signaling of, well, there's 4 constituent parts, but the interwoven nature of how those things have to work. And I think if you do treat them separately, you do not get the full value of the pie. That's for sure. Having said all of that, and said that you do not now recognize the 4 quadrants, you kind of second nature now to think about how things overlap. I'm going to go very linear. Maybe it's the man in me. Let's take a little look at maybe a couple of the specific sectors, because I'm interested to sort of see what's happened in the evolution of where you've got to, particularly this kind of interwoven thing. So if we take something like engaging managers, which, if we're to believe any other data other than our own, the relationship with the line manager still is hugely influential on people's performance, even their retention inside an organization. And we take human engagement as a given, right? Or you're a human, you must be able to communicate, you must be able to engage, get on with it. I think this is a particular area where maybe your experience is particularly interesting, because sometimes when we think about needing to improve the caliber of managers, the natural instinct for some large organizations is to go and buy a leadership dev program or send people off to various centers to go and learn things.
Yeah.
I don't think you had that option. So what did you do instead? How did you approach that whole topic?
Okay, so what we did was we developed our own leadership academy. Now, again, a little bit of context. When I joined the organization, there was maybe about between 200 and 250, 220-ish people in the organization. We've grown. We are now probably sitting about 650. So we've grown hugely. So obviously we didn't know that was going to happen, but as it turned out, what we did was scalable, which was fabulous, and affordable. Because what we did was we developed our own leadership academy. I knew what we needed to instill. Again, because we were starting from blank sheet of paper, little bits of management development, ad hoc-ish. But what we needed was a concerted, developed program that was appropriate and specific to us and what we needed. So I have a tremendous L&D manager, as she was then, and I'd worked with somebody in a previous role. Big shout out to Lindsay. And the 3 of us, so Joyce, myself, and Lindsay, external person, created what we wanted. And it was a multi-layered approach. So we had different layers based on where people sat within the organization. So we had frontline supervisors, and then we had cohort 2, which was a level above that, then cohort 3, which is more middle stroke senior managers. And then we had a program for the senior leadership team, and everybody did it. So the senior leadership team did what the rest of the organization were doing. And it meant it was really important, because then we all had a common language and we all understood what we meant. And everybody did it. So people could talk about models, and people were talking about theories and situational leadership and stuff. And that just became the language that we developed. And then as we got bigger and bigger, and as people were coming in at different levels, we were able to flex and get people at the right stage in their career so that they were part of it as well. So it's flexed and stretched, and it's evolved. It hasn't stayed static. We've looked at it. Things have happened. I mean, COVID happened.
Small insignificance. Yeah.
And then we've had other things within the organization, and the context has changed. And so we've been able to flex it quite quickly because we own it. Yeah. We manage it. So we can pick up what's going on. And actually, things like, because we do the engagement survey, where we're getting some feedback about change management. Change management isn't handled very well, and we need to look at this. So it was like, okay, let's develop a module. So we developed a change management module, and literally within a month or 2, it was available to go, and we rolled it out as a masterclass. So we had that flexibility. we had the expertise, we had the knowledge, and it's proved to be a huge advantage to the organisation, I think. And you know what? It's really good. It's a cracking piece of work, and it's a great product, and it's been absolutely essential in helping us survive, I think.
I think the interesting things that I listened to that, and I've got a question on the back of it, is I think the use of everybody in the organisation, inverted commas, going through that program at some shape or form, hugely important. Because I think where a lot, in my experience, where a lot of these things fail is this group need developing. We're fine, by the way, sort them out, and then the guys come out of those sessions chomping at the bit, ready to take on the world, and run into this barrier of, hold on, what are you talking about? That's not what we do. So that common language that you speak about, I think, is a fundamental to making this work, right? That alignment piece. If you look back at that program, what was your biggest learning that you took out of that evolution from start to where you've got today? What, if you were whispering in the ear of your younger self, Fiona, what would you be saying retrospectively?
Gosh, I think what we've done is at the end of every cohort, we do a review where members of the senior leadership team sit in, and the people that have gone through the training talk about what they've learned, what they've taken away, and what they want to develop themselves. And that we've done that since day one, and that has been tremendous. And it's one of the highlights for the SLT, because it's so exciting to hear what people are doing differently and what they're taking away.
Yeah.
One thing I think that perhaps I would do is now we bring the individual's line manager in. So at that end of cohort review, it does get a bit manager heavy, but it's fine. It shows support and talks to what's important for the organisation. The line manager of the individual that's gone through it, and a member of SLT, and we all listen and give feedback and what have you. So I think I would have implemented that quicker.
Yeah.
And what else would I have done? Probably started it sooner.
Well, I mean, but isn't that a great thing to sit back and go, do you know what? It's had such an effect. I wish I'd done this before. And I think you cannot underplay the importance of having that attendance that you just talked about in front of somebody who's gone through a program to sort of say, look, we've had interim catch-ups and coaching and all that kind of holding accountable through the program. Now I want to hear the sort of like denouement of the whole thing. What have you taken? And I love the bit about, so what's next? Because that signifies that continuation of improvement, right? Which I think is part and parcel of this. You don't go through this program and I've completed leadership.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the key messages that we say. This isn't the end of your program. This is the beginning, because actually there's a whole bunch of stuff that hasn't resonated because you're not there yet, because you've not needed it, because they get their resource pack at the end of it. And also we've developed a community of practice as well. So we encourage them to go in there. But this is about, you might find yourself in a situation where you've not been before, but there'll be something in the resource pack. So use it, go back, have a look, revisit the models, have a look at stuff. And it might be that you've forgotten all about it, because, hey, you pick up what you need at that time, because these are managers managing. So if they're find themselves in a situation and they're having to, for example, manage a performance management issue, or they're having to have one of these, conversations that everybody goes, oh, I don't really want to do that. Then they'll use that. They'll take that model, they'll do the prep for that, etc. But actually it might be further on they have to delegate something that's quite big, and therefore I don't know how to do that, but all the resources are in the pack. So it's about reminding them that they've got that resource available. And in the community of practice, I mean, we've now got to the point where we have something like 160 people that manage people within the organisation. So you've got a huge resource there.
Massive.
Use them.
And there's one thing about learning and the other thing about experiencing, right, and shaping your own path forward. So I totally love that. Subscribe to that. I'm going to pick a hobby horse, if that's okay. I'd like us to have a little look at organizational integrity, because I think this one is fascinating for you in your context, and actually in a little bit of research I may have misinterpreted something. So my question, you could look at me and go, what are you talking about? So I'll take that risk. But I also see this particular area, I think it's one that can easily be overlooked in lots of organizations, the sort of say-do gap, if you like, within all this sort of stuff. So if I've understood it correctly, right, Migrant Help deliberately maintains a non-advocacy position, right?
Yeah.
If I've understood that correctly. Now, understandably, my interpretation of that is also that there must be some people that join an organization like yours precisely because they really care passionately about the very people that you're supporting, and they do want to advocate for them.
Yes.
So how do you reconcile those two things? Because I think that is a direct challenge for organizational integrity.
It's a tricky one. We absolutely values we live and breathe, and they're interwoven through everything that we do. And I can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But yeah, when we interview people, passion is one of the things that comes up time and time and time and time again. The nature of our organization is we have and we do deliver government contracts in this space, which means that there are certain things that we cannot do and there are certain things that we cannot say. And that's all tied up with our contracts. However, what we can do and what we do is, because we can see the contract covers, again, I'm being all handy, I'm doing a ball. The contract covers this much, but because we are so close, we can see perhaps where there are requirements and needs around the needs of the contract. And then we use our strategic projects and our reserves to, as a charity, to plug some of the gaps around what people do. Our people are very passionate about what they do. They are very keen for us to make statements and to come out and to say certain things, even if we believe that absolutely we should do that. We operate under constraints.
Yeah.
And that is just the reality of the work that we do under certain contracts. So sometimes there is tension, I think.
Friction.
It's fair to say a tension between what our staff would like us to say, what they would want us to say, what they would want us to do, versus the constraints under which we manage under these larger contracts. So it's an interesting tension, but it's one that we're aware of. It's one that we tackle head on. We talk about it and we explain to people and we try and say, okay, we understand that you want us to do X, Y, and Z, or to say this, but actually what we're going to do is we're going to do this instead. And we're going to try and come at it from this angle and do this. But there's no doubt about it, our people do keep us on our toes.
It must be a sort of it's a constant dialogue, right? It's a constant education piece, because
we do have lots and lots of discussions with our organization. I'll be honest with you, it's the most transparent organization I have ever worked in. The accessibility to the chief executive and the accessibility to the SLT is such that I have never seen before. So in fact, tomorrow, I think it's either tomorrow or the next day, we are having one of our quarterly SLT Q&As. So how many initials can you get in one thing? My God, Q&A.
I don't know, give me a few minutes, I'll have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. What does it mean? Where staff can ask us anything. They can ask us, so we take it on rotation. There'll be 3 or sometimes 4 of us who are up there, and people ask us questions and we answer them. And people are not backwards in coming forwards, and we really are held to account, which is a good thing. Do you know, it's a good thing. People don't always get to hear what they want to hear, but we will explain absolutely why we are not able to do what they require of us. So it's great. It's a really open, transparent, discussive type culture that we have within the organization. But in terms of how we translate values into behaviors, then we've done some work around that.
I was going to say, there was a couple of things I wanted to sort of ask you before I lose time with you. Is there are probably lots of people listening inside businesses that wish they had the passion and care from employees that you face into, but it brings its own challenges which you're dealing with. And I think the thing that I heard there that I absolutely love to pieces is the straight answer. So you might want this, but it's not going to happen. But let me tell you why it's not going to happen. Because often that is the stuff that goes down the black hole and people just assume they're being ignored, where actually the organization doesn't want to lead into some tough news. But the other thing, how do you reconcile all this kind of stuff within the behaviors bit when there is this friction occasionally?
I don't want to overplay the friction. I mean, it
No,
exists.
it's there,
and
but
it's sort of like a kind of backdrop, and it's more in some areas than others. But basically, what we did was we took the values, and we've got 6 values, and we have worked over we've now got what we call the Migrant Help Way, which is the behaviour framework, where passion meets compassion. So, and we co-produced that with our staff. Actually, we set up workshops, diagonal slice of the. Oh God, I'm going a bit straight. Lots of different people in workshops to talk about. Okay, well, what does good look like? What sort of behaviours would you expect and like to see under this value, and what are the sorts of things that would maybe indicate that we're not aligned as much as we would like to be? And in my head, when we kicked these off, I thought that we would have layering. It's almost like, when you've got a competency framework and you've got people at more junior levels do this, and then as you go up, you've got middle managers that do that, and then you go. So I anticipated that there would be different levels, and I was wrong. I absolutely got that wrong. So when I got the output of all the workshops, there was so much. The volume was so much. I was like, thank you very much. Oh my goodness. And then there was so much synergy, and there wasn't a hierarchy. And actually, if you think about it, and I'm sure there'll be people listening will go, well, it's behaviours. Of course not. And I absolutely hear you, and I got there, but it's not where I started. So we ended up with one behaviour framework for everybody within the organisation. And I distilled the myriad and the volume of work that people had done. It was great. We got so much engagement that what we've got now has been through a couple of iterations and is very robust. It really does, and it absolutely brings our values to life under those passion and compassion headings. So it's in order to do what we do, in order to deliver value, we need to have a well-oiled machine. We need to run efficiently and what have you. But my God, we do it with a big heart, and we do it with the best of intentions for our service users, for the people that we come across in our work, and also our people. So it's bringing those two kind of subheadings in our values together is I love it. I think it's great.
I think it sounds amazing. I'm going to ask you a very unfair question in the sort of minute or so I've got left with you.
Oh no!
I know, shocking. We'd have to have another conversation. When you look back, where have the 4 pillars or 4 enablers really held up, and where perhaps have they been most challenged?
I think they've really held up when we have a staff conference. So when we every 18 months we bring everybody together, and I think for me that's where you see them woven together, because it's by doing that you are putting in place some of the the employee voice stuff, the engaging manager stuff, but then the content and everything that we do around that is driven by the strategic narrative, depending on what the content is, and also we usually do some sort of recognition or some sort of awards, and that's about the integrity. So it's about rewarding and valuing and publicly celebrating where things are aligned and where people are doing stuff that are absolutely in keeping with what's important for us as an organisation. And Yeah, and it was an absolute joy because we did it this year and we gave out lots of prizes and getting people up and it was all employee nominated. So it was a bit like I equated it to the Players Player of the Year kind of award. So this was people that were nominated. So that was useful. Where does it not stand up? I think,
or at least comes under the most pressure, maybe.
Yeah. I think that the strategic narrative sometimes, just because of the volatility of the external context. I mean, where the sector we're in is pretty political with a big P and a little p, and is under constant scrutiny, and being able to create a narrative around that for us as an organisation, whilst the external piece is so volatile, can be quite tricky. Quite tricky. And how we then translate that into looking after our people, again, and doing it in an agile way, because things happen. You've seen what's in the news. Things happen.
Yeah, I think this is what's really interesting about that one particularly. I know we're sort of running out of time, but I think this is the secret in all of this stuff, is that this is not a one and done. I've written it, it's done, tick. It's now in a box. We put it in a time capsule, we bury it, and someone from Blue Peter kind of opens it up in 20 years' time. These things have to be living, breathing, and relevant. So at a time when you have to change something, you have to change something, right? It's just helping the organization understand why that is and the context and what it means for them in terms of their place in the story. I think that's where it's really, really important. Fiona, I have thoroughly enjoyed having the tiny amount of time I've had with you today. Not nearly enough. If people would like to find out a bit more about Migrant Help and yourself, where's the best place for them to go? Where could they find out a little bit more?
We have a Migrant Help. If you Google Migrant Help, it has its own website. Me personally, if you're interested in me, I'm on LinkedIn. Of course. It's Fiona Stephens in LinkedIn. There's quite a lot of traffic at the moment because of the most influential thing. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, kicking around. So I'm on there. But yeah, website. We've got a very good website. We've got a very good comms team, and they keep our website.
I love the way you underplay the kind of most influential, like being in HR type thing. Just chuck it in at the end of the episode so no one can find it. Yeah, congratulations.
I'm still coming to terms with it. Thank you. Thank you. It actually meant a great deal, I have to say.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Not nearly enough, but don't forget, go and visit EnglishForSuccess.org, check out the show notes, explore the free employee engagement resources whilst you're there. And of course, you can download any of the past shows, including this episode, while you're there. So we'll be back at the same time next week. I'm Andy Gorham, and thanks for listening to Engage for Success Radio.
Engage for Success Radio, raising the profile of employee engagement and shining a light on good practice for people who believe there's a